It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 317. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
There is no escape.
Grace.
Hi.
Kodra.
Hello.
Neph.
Hi.
Tam.
Invert your Y.
And Thalen.
Murderer.
I mean, make Tam not be mad at the world and invert Y in your games.
I mean, Fall Guys just made this mistake.
Like, it's a thing. Like, honestly, I never, until this became a reoccurring theme with you, Tam, I never would have thought that was an option somebody actually wanted. I've never inverted my Y in a game.
35% of gamers worldwide play with inverted Y.
Like there's really no excuse.
Of people. There's no excuse.
No, I mean, like, I get it, but if you've never played like that, it doesn't even cross your mind that that's a thing.
The thing, it's actually interesting because hilariously, games defaulted to what is now called invert Y for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It just switched randomly with, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s.
FPS, I think, is what switched it.
It didn't, though.
No, because older games like Quake used that.
Yeah.
I don't remember Quake using it, but
Quake
maybe
used
it did.
Quake defaulted to invert Y. Well, Quake's default controls are what are now called invert Y.
Maybe I inverted it. I don't know.
I mean,
or maybe I've just gotten used to this and now I think everything's this way. I don't know. Like, I don't remember playing reverse of what I play now.
So I never played Quake, but first-person shooters before that really didn't have you interacting with the Y-axis very much.
It's true.
Yeah.
I remember playing Doom on a Gravis gamepad and feeling perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I just remember Doom, you would basically shoot columns of bullets.
Well, there was no Z-axis in Doom. There was a visual Z-axis, but it didn't exist other than that. Effectively, everything was 2D because you could never be on top of where you were already at.
Yeah, the addition of the Z-axis for Quake was a big deal.
It also greatly complicated map making because, maps in Doom were really easy to make, and I made tons of maps in Doom. Quake maps confused the hell out of me for a really long time, how to make them. But anyway, so the reason why this is suddenly a topic this week is a game kind of came from out of nowhere this week, and I have been playing the hell out of it and then convincing other people to play it as well.
And thank goodness you have, because it's actually delightful.
Yeah.
A game called Genshin Impact. It is from Shanghai studio MiHoYo.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'd heard about this a while back and had kind of dismissed it as
I did too.
Probably not going to be that notable.
Yeah,
I thought it was just a mobile game.
Another gacha game. Okay.
Right. I thought it was just a mobile gacha game, but this game is this weird intermingling of Breath of the Wild and Dragalia Lost and Trials of Mana / a modern Dragon Quest game. And it's a lot it gets dismissed as a Breath of the Wild clone because they're absolutely you can't play the game for more than a few minutes without getting that vibe from it, given it has the same stamina meter for climbing and for gliding. But it's doing so much more with that. And
this game has a lot going on, and it took a while to get far enough to see how much it has going on, but it's significantly deeper than I expected it to be.
Well, so most gacha games that I've played have the the most paper thin of thin stories going on.
Mm-hmm.
And this game has got like a pretty rich world. There's a lot of stuff that like is predictable because it's essentially telling the same story as Dragalia Lost, at least in part. And there's a lot of things that are very similar, like you're running around as a character, and the other person, your sister, is now the person that you're looking for, and you're followed around by this little quirky fairy character. So like there's a lot of parallels there too.
Does your sister become the end boss?
I mean, probably.
That seems to be where it's heading.
Also, it could be your brother, which I appreciate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the plus one that this game does is, oh hey, you're not stuck playing a male character.
I'm still
nice.
stuck playing a very particular looking character.
You sure are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there really isn't customization. You are playing a series of characters, and you can put any 4 of them in a party, but you are playing a bunch of specific characters.
So the thing that I appreciate about this is I started to appreciate it once I realized that, any one of these characters, none of them is going to be that character that I focus on and learn really well. No, each of these characters is basically a button on my hotbar for me to do a specific kind of attack, and they just happen to look different. But I can deal with the fixed looks of the characters, and I can deal with the random nature of pulling the characters much better, knowing that mostly the individual characters don't matter. It's just having a particular combination of elements and weapon types, and you can mix and match those with whatever you have on hand.
Like, there's tier lists floating around, and sure, there's probably some characters that like have higher output than other characters, but like this game is more about you coming up with a logical blend of characters that like complement each other rather than, oh hey, I'm just going to play this one super overpowered character. Yeah, because like there's a character that I like playing as, Razor, which is probably the character that Ash probably eventually needs.
I was going to say, if this game did have character creation, that's the kind of character I would make.
Yeah. So like Razor was raised by wolves, and he has a ghost werewolf that follows him around. And if you idle, the ghost werewolf will spawn and pat you on the head, and then it disappears, and Razor looks like the saddest person in the world because Ghost Wolf ran away. But like Razor is a shock character or a lightning character, so the rest of my party is built around helping augment his abilities. So there's a character called Barbara that if you manage to get to AR20 before the first patch, and from what I can tell, it's like a month away for the first patch, you get Barbara for free.
Go, Barbara, go!
Go, Barbara, go! It's a character that, like, literally, she says that when she starts running around. Go, Barbara, go!
Okay.
But she is I guess she's like a priest of whatever the religion is in this game. And her thing is like she's a pop idol, basically, and she sings songs and slings melodies at the enemies that are all like water damage type things. And her E is like a melody shield, for lack of a better word. It's a bunch of musical notes that
priest smite heals.
Yeah. So
that also applies like water element damage.
So what I do is I start off most fights as Barbara, maybe get in a hit or two, put up the shield, switch over to Razor. Razor now has that shield up because like a lot of the abilities transition between the characters that you're playing. So like there's a character called Noelle, which is a big smashy battle maid. And she can put up a earth shield, which has interactions of earth abilities. But like when you switch to another character, that person has that earth shield up now. So she doesn't have great damage output, but she can make another one of your characters super tanky. So it's a lot of mixing and matching different elements that like complement each other.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I sort of meant about, each of these characters is something interesting on your hotbar, and it's up to you to figure out how to mix and match them in a synergistic way. But I definitely love the fact that shields and buffs and things that you summon onto the battlefield on one character remain and are useful for any character that you summon.
I haven't gotten to the part where I'm like building and customizing my own like suite of characters, but everything I've heard from other people is that it's more like deck building than it is taking a party like a traditional Final Fantasy party.
Right, because at any given time you only control one window into your party. So you're going to blend your abilities in a way that makes sense, just like you were building a deck. And the gear is a lot of that way too. So like there's certain characters that like you can gear a bunch of different ways. And listening to people that have been playing this for a really long time in beta, the way that they talk about their characters and the gear is much in the same way that like somebody playing League would talk about building a champion up a specific way. Because like there's essentially like attack power and defense and healing and elemental, I think, are the main four. And then the way that you like build a champion is going to ultimately determine what kind of abilities they can do are effective. But I guess the thing that like I find interesting is there are a bunch of tier lists out for this game, and one of the characters that like all these tier lists universally agree is like garbage tier is Amber the Fire Archer. And I love Amber the Fire Archer. Like she's great.
She has an exploding bunny
that taunts everything, and it sits there and dances until it explodes. Like it doesn't do a lot of damage, but do you know how useful it is to drop something that is going to taunt things onto it?
I am guessing that your tier lists are Monster Hunter style.
Probably so, yeah.
This sounds like a meta battle problem
Yeah.
where the tier list is built on the assumption that you will play perfectly at all times and never take damage.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing with like Barbara. Like, okay, so earlier I fought this nonsense battle. And Grace can back me up how nonsense this battle is. It's like a level 39 Ghost Wolf. And I got wrecked except for Barbara. And Barbara could dish out enough healing and deal just enough damage that the way I built my Barbara was to be super healy, and the wolf could not deal more damage than Barbara could heal. So it became like two paladins dueling. Like I eventually won. It was a really slow fight, and I had to do a lot of dodging and fighting to get through it. But like, I basically heel fighted my way through it and got through the encounter, and it's a miserable encounter. Like, I feel like I would do better at it now knowing what to expect, but I brought in the wrong tools. But like, so I don't know, like I've not experienced a situation where, oh no, this is just a horrible character. Like they're all really useful in specific ways, and any of them could be mained if you decided to structure a party around them. But like, I think a lot of the tier lists are based on a fixed solution to problems.
Yeah. So one thing I'm curious about, because it occurred to me, I've made an assumption about this game based on the fact that it is a game available on mobile devices and it is a gacha game, but I haven't actually heard anybody say that this is the case. Does this game have an energy mechanic?
Sort of.
Sort of. So there are certain activities that you can do that are limited by an energy mechanic. There's a or like a resource called resin or resin, or I don't know exactly how you're supposed to pronounce it, but it's spelled resin. And doing certain things costs resin to get rewards from. And that's a key difference that I really like about this is
Yes, it's a significant difference.
so many things like cost you a resource to try. And like some of these fights are really tough. And it would suck extremely badly if you had to burn a resource every time you made an attempt. What happens instead is if you succeed, a chest will spawn and it will cost you 20 or 40 resin to open the chest and get rewards from it. And that mechanic regens at a specific rate. And I think like you have 120 by default. And then there are items that regenerate resin.
Well, that was my next question is what does it cap at and how much time does it take to reach that cap?
So it's 8 minutes to regen 1, and it caps at 120, and most things take 20 to 40. I think one of the things I was looking at, dungeon type thing or boss fight thing, took 60, but had very good rewards. So, and the important functional thing about this is that, for instance, if I wanted to team up with Bell and go take out some bosses because he needed something off of them, I could do that. I could fight the bosses, and if I didn't need anything off of them, I could not spend the resource and not get the reward, and it's fine. I can still participate.
Yeah. Okay, so based on that, it's 16 hours to go from 0 to full, which that sounds like an actually reasonable time span for that. Because let me tell you, the thing that has soured me on gacha games in general is games with energy mechanics where the pool caps at a teeny tiny amount, and so you cannot play more than a little bit every couple of hours. And if you're not playing every couple of hours, you are wasting energy.
Right. So the big takeaway though is like this is a very limited number of things that cost this mechanic. The big
majority
open
of
world,
the game does not need this at all.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. The big open world, all the quests, it doesn't even factor in. It's basically a reward limiting mechanic.
It would basically be like, if I'm reading this right, it would basically be like if you wanted to do heroic dungeons or raids, you would need to pay this to get loot from them.
Correct.
Right.
And otherwise, you can do everything else in the game just fine.
Yep. And the game has thrown a bunch of items at us just by playing the game that will regenerate 60 resin at a time. And you can, of course, buy additional resin through. But like realistically, like I still have a stack of these things. And I've been doing world bosses a bunch, and they each cost 40 per to get the rewards. So, like, I mean, I've been going through them, but I still have a bunch of them. And I still continue to get them periodically from doing quests and stuff. So there's apparently the 1.1 patch is out on the Chinese PTR, and they've made a way for people to get one of these resin regen items each day. So in addition to it ticking up slowly, you'll also be able to get like one of the things to give you a quick shot at 60. Because I guess they decided that it was probably too limiting. This is a weird thing because like usually you hear about these gacha games like going more painful, but so like right now to get a 5-star pull, you were guaranteed 1 5-star every 90 pulls.
That seems like a high number.
It does seem like a lot.
It is a high number, but
But you're guaranteed, which is a lot different from what I'm used to seeing.
right.
And the 4 stars are totally functional. I don't have a single 5-star character, and it doesn't matter. Right now, at least.
I'm actually curious about that. I assume it has a increase the star of your characters mechanic.
Not that I have seen yet.
Not a lot of games actually have that.
Yeah.
No. So this is just I don't know what differentiates between the two, because like realistically it doesn't seem to be power level.
Huh. I mean, it's probably the maximum level that something can be raised to. That's usually what it is.
No, it's not either.
Something to do with those constellations?
No. Constellations are a totally different mechanic.
And that must be even harder to get for a 5-star. Like, I would rather have a 4-star character, because you need to get duplicates to raise the constellations. And getting duplicate 4-star is a lot easier than getting a duplicate 5-star.
That was also true for unbinding the dragons and Dragalia Lost.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a difference, is like when you in Dragalia Lost, when you get a duplicate character, you just get a bunch of whatever that mana-like resource is, the jug. I don't remember what it was called.
Eldwater.
There you go. Here, whenever you get a duplicate, you get to unlock a constellation, which improves like the efficiency of their abilities. And for some like bleeding edge builds, they really, really want like you to have the champion with like 6 constellations unlocked, which means you've gotten 7 of that champion. There are mechanics to outright buy champions, but like it rotates over time which one you can buy. So there is a resource that builds up as kind of a second chance currency from summoning, and I used it to buy a second copy of Fang. Because right now, not Fang, Razor. Because right now, Razor is one of the 2 champions you can buy with that currency, and I don't know what the reset time on that is. So I ended up picking up another one just so I could unlock a constellation. But yeah, like so there really doesn't seem to be a difference between a 4-star and a 5-star champion.
Looks like it's slightly better stats.
Yeah,
just slightly.
I played the trial of one of the 5-stars, which is also a nice thing. Like, the game lets you try out little mini dungeons with characters that are, available for random pulls.
Yeah, because there's 3 what they call banners. One has a higher drop rate of specific champions. So, like, if you pull a 5-star, you have a 50% chance that 5-star is going to be Venti, which is this bard character. If you pull a 4-star, it's a 50% chance that is either going to be Barbara or Faisal, or I don't remember what the third one was, but basically there's like it's an increased rate of getting these 3 champions.
I think it's Sangling.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think you're right. But like for all of those, you can run trials, so you can play as the characters that are on that banner with increased drop rates, so that you can decide, do I want to even mess with this? Do I like any of these characters? The game seems to give you a decent amount of currency to do pulls. Like basically right now it's giving you enough currency to do a single pull every single day.
That's pretty normal.
A single 10 pull.
No, a single
pull
one
that actually has a chance of getting a 4 or 5-star.
Okay, so a 10 pull is a guaranteed 4-star.
But you're guaranteed a 4-star after any 10 pulls, even if you're pulling them one at a time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so every 10 pulls,
nice.
every 10 pulls, you will get some kind of a 4-star, be it a 4-star weapon or a 4-star character.
But yeah, I mean, like a lot of these games, in the first day or 2 that you're playing, you'll get enough to do several 10 pulls. And then after that, once you get into the meat of the game, it's about 1 a day.
Yeah, and you could probably do 2 a day, depending on what kind of activities you're doing, because like a lot of them reward like 5 of a current 5. What is it? Primogems. Yeah. Basically, you get like 5 to 10 for doing a lot of little things out in the world. So, and it takes 160 to do a pull. So like it can add up. The world is pretty large. Like right now, there's 2 regions that we have access to. The wind-themed region, which is patterned off of Europe, and the Earth-themed region, which is patterned off of China. And apparently, when 1-1 lands, we get the region that is patterned off of Japan, and I don't know what element it is. So eventually, we will probably at least go through one realm of every element. But I think like the only thing that I think is a little weird is it takes a really long time before you unlock co-op.
Oh,
Tell me about it.
Yeah, that was a little disappointing. I'm hoping that they rethink that in the future. Level 16 is a little long to wait.
Well, and it's not just 16, it's double gated. You have to be at a specific place in the story and a specific place in your adventure rank. Because basically, so that's something that we should probably talk about, is the game has 2 different levels. You have your character level and your adventure rank. And your adventure rank is basically you, the player's level. And any of the content things in the game are gated based on your player level, not your character level. And as far as the character level goes, the game kind of throws like level up items at you constantly.
And you can farm them with resin if you need more, if you just got a new character or something.
Well, and you can craft a lot of the level up stuff too. But yeah, so like you have to get to 16 before you can do co-op, and that was a little weird, I thought.
Yeah, but I think it does make a little more sense now that we have tried co-op and figured out what works in co-op and what doesn't work in co-op. Because if you're just exploring or doing quests, you are mostly better off being solo. Some of the chests and things that you find can't be looted by someone who is co-opted into your game. But co-op is incredibly fun for doing the world bosses and the mini dungeons.
Yeah, the world bosses are really good. Like they're basically raid encounters.
Some of them remind me very much of playing WildStar. Just some of the nonsense that is happening on the ground.
That's a stirring recommendation.
I was incredibly pleased with some of these fights. We jumped into some not really knowing what the heck was going to happen, and they were really fun.
And like it helps to have a healer, but also it's not required because we've done several of them without a healer.
That's true.
It really just means like the important thing for these fights seems to be that you are cognizant of the element of the encounter, which is very clearly stated what element it is.
Yeah.
And also like you building a reasonable team around that. So like if 2 people are doing co-op, then each player controls 2 characters. So you basically like you have 2 characters on screen at once, and everybody has like a second character. So you kind of have to synergize like, okay, I will bring this element and you bring that element, and combined, like this is going to work. I would imagine that probably when you get into 3 players, it's whoever owns the world probably gets to bring 2 characters. That
would be my guess. Yeah.
And then 4 players, everybody's got their own character. But we did find an interesting, not necessarily exploit of the system, but if you want to farm a boss over and over, you can break up the group and then have the other person join on the person that you weren't in the world for, and the boss is up, and you can do it.
But those bosses mostly respawn very, very quickly anyway. If you wander away, kill something, and wander back, it's probably going to be back up. Because the limiting factor is the resin for getting the loot. So the boss itself mostly respawns quickly.
Yeah, because we hopped back and forth between two bosses for a while.
Yeah.
And they were up every time we went back. There are trials which seem to have a longer respawn.
Yeah, that wolf one you were talking about before, that one has like a 48-hour or something like that respawn timer, 40-hour. But I also appreciate that, some of these bosses that we fought, there's a series of these elemental cubes, and that's the boss. But I was pleasantly surprised to discover that each elemental cube was its own completely different fight. They weren't just identical cubes with different elements. They each did something different mechanically during the fight. There were similarities, but they weren't just copy-pasted with a different element thrown on top.
Yeah, and I found the Earth Cube, and I'm really curious to find out how it works.
Boy, I hope you have something that can break Earth constructs.
So the problem with Earth is, nothing is really strong against it. Nothing is really weak against it, but, nothing is really strong against it either.
Geo is good at breaking its own constructs, but it's not so good at doing damage to something that has a Geo element on it.
Well, wind is kind of the same way, too, because wind is like a neutral additive that makes other things better, but, in its own, it's kind of weird. The game as a whole has a much more complicated rock, paper, scissors mechanic than traditionally in this sort of thing. It is not a clear path between them. And
most elements interact with each other in some way or other.
Yeah. There are some that are just universally good against an element. So if you're fighting something water, then lightning is just going to shred it. But then you would think ice would be the same way. And lightning is somewhat strong against ice, but you also get frozen while you're fighting it. So you're constantly having to break yourself out of ice on your own, even though you're fighting it. Because everything has a combination. So if you apply ice to lightning or lightning to ice, you get superconductor, which increases damage in some way.
Shocks things around it.
Yeah. And that's real fun if you can drop a AoE lightning effect on a bunch of frost mobs, they will shock themselves to death because it will just keep chaining back and forth between the ice mobs. I think, though, shocking to no one, my happiest time with this game is just wandering around. Because, I have spent an extreme amount of time in Mondstadt, which is the first region, and I am still constantly finding new stuff that I haven't seen.
There's just so much stuff.
Yeah, there's hundreds of chests to find, little events to do, items and collectible power-ups to find. It's very, very full of things to do.
Yeah, out of the Chinese beta, they said there were a total of, I think, 500 static chests in Mondstadt, not to take into account the ones that respawn periodically as part of events. There's 500 chests that you can find that something unlocks them.
I like the variety too. Those chests, they might just open when you find them. They might require a puzzle to unlock them. They might require a fight. There's just, I don't know. It's charming, and it's got enough different types of activities going on. It seems like it could keep me happy for a little while.
It also runs on mobile better than anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is perfectly reasonable to be playing this on a mobile device. I've played it, I really like the fact that iOS and Android and PC have a shared save infrastructure. Mostly PlayStation 4 is off on its own because Sony. I'm really hoping when the Switch version comes out, it's part of the same save infrastructure. But so one of the things so there's a battle pass system in the game, and I think both Grace and I have bought into it. Where basically,
Yes.
I think there's a $10 battle pass and a $20 battle pass, and the only difference is you get like a cosmetic background for your player card and
Really?
No.
and you end up getting 10 levels as part of it.
Okay.
And I want to say there was something else that you got as well, but like there wasn't a significant difference.
Resin, some of the resin items.
There wasn't a massive difference between the two. The lower track is unlocked by the $10 one, and then the $20 is just like the extra special version.
Getting those 10 extra levels is pretty nice.
And I think the biggest thing of note is that you get a 4-star weapon as part of the track at like 35.
30.
30? Okay. But like it's the sort of thing that's like I've been enjoying the hell out of myself. So like I was perfectly down with giving them some money.
I saw that pop up as an option and thought, I've already gotten $20 worth of fun out of this game, so I'm going to reward this.
Well, and what's interesting about it too is, so I was starting to go down this path, but like on the PTR, basically, they've made significant changes to some of the systems. And it is very unusual that a gacha game goes in the direction of being more user-friendly and less abusive. So like I said, right now you get a 5-star every 90 pulls. Well, apparently in the PTR, you get a 5-star every 50 pulls. Also, when you get one of the guaranteed pity 4 stars or 5 stars, instead of getting a specific character, you get a token that can be used to cash in for any character that is a 4-star or 5-star. So basically, like, if you get to that guaranteed 10th summon that gets you a 4-star, you'll be able to choose what character you actually want for that. And supposedly, they're rewarding people for summons that they've already done. So, in theory, when 1.1 goes in, you'll just have a stack of currency for additional characters.
That sounds super generous.
It sounds very generous. Like, it is not the direction I would expect a gacha game to go in. But if the traffic on my blog is any evidence, they are doing fine. I have been writing this week about Genshin Impact because I've been playing it, and my God, the traffic has gone nuts.
I mean, it feels like this week there's been a huge spike in interest, because I know...
It just came out last weekend.
Well, there's also been a couple of Penny Arcade comics about it, too.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing, because I think that the thing that's really just blowing people's minds is it's fully functional on mobile, and it's forcing a lot of people to take mobile seriously, because this is a fully functional game. You don't have to pay money for it, so right now that is a real big draw, and it's good. Like, I know that there's a lot of people on the dev side who have been looking at it and wondering, like, is this going to look like the model for games moving forward?
Well, because right now, if there is a mobile version of a game out, it is a lesser version of a game. This is the first time
Or the only version.
Or the only version, yeah. I mean, if you look at like PUBG or Fortnite, their mobile client is a greatly stripped down version of the PC client or the console client. But this game plays just the same. Like, I mean, I can get into combat on a mobile phone just as easily with a mouse and a keyboard. Like, I maybe wouldn't want to do some of the fights just because I'm not used to the interface.
But you could become used to the interface.
I could become used to the interface, yeah. Like, if it became the thing I was primarily using, then I'm sure it would be fine. And the way that this game does dodging helps, I think. Because, dodging and running are essentially the same thing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, so, like, you can burst in a direction. So like your run ability is basically you just moving really quickly in a direction. And if you want to run for a long period of time, you can just kind of chain those together. But really, it's super handy for a dodge purpose.
I do wish there was an auto run, or if there is one, I haven't figured it out yet. It is.
So, okay, so if you dodge in a direction and hold down your shift and your movement key, it will continue running you in that direction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it will be draining your stamina the entire time, but yeah, it works like a stamina-based run mechanic. I tend to burst dodge because it seems like it drains the stamina slower, and I still get quick motion.
Okay, so is that just like a dash run? Because I just want like an auto run where like I can set my character running while I like.
Oh yeah, that's a dash run.
Yeah.
I don't know if it exists or not.
I would like that, but I'm not going to complain that much because it's just a small thing. But I just want to make sure I hadn't like not figured out how to do it or something.
Okay, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. You want basically the WoW auto run.
Yeah.
Where you hit numlock and it goes in a direction. Yeah, I have not found that yet. Useful tip for anybody just starting out. Sometime you will be in the air and gliding and just about to run out of stamina. If you hit your attack button, you will do a dive attack at the ground and safely land without taking damage.
No matter how high you happen to be.
So you have to do this while you're still gliding. So you still have to watch your stamina, and when it's blinking red, you better do your dive. Otherwise, the game will gleefully let you die. And it feels real sad when you let a character die.
Yeah.
For some reason, it always seems to be the same one for me. Like, I don't know what it is, but I always die on the same character.
Yeah, it feels real bad, though, when you're, like, doing something that's kind of frivolous, like doing a challenge, and you let the character die, and like, crap, I either got to go back to a shrine and res, or eat some pancakes.
Gotta eat some pancakes.
Food is a way of doing a bunch of things. You can res characters with food. You can heal the characters with food. Your health does not regenerate over time. That is an important concept that you need to get used to.
How do you get more health back then?
You eat or you go back to one of there are these shrines scattered throughout the world which serve as the radio tower mechanic that unlocks more map, or at least gives you visualization into more map. And at the shrines, if you just stand around at a shrine, it will regenerate your health, or you can click on and receive the quote-unquote blessing of the shrine and heal yourself back up.
Or you can go, Barbara, go.
Go, Barbara, go. Yes, that's another reason why I run with Barbara, is because when Barbara attacks, she heals the party.
Ooh, that's nice.
So it's very important to get to that AR-20 and get your free Barbara, because she's super useful. There's a bunch of other healer mechanics or healer characters that all function in slightly different manner.
So I guess I got lucky because I got Barbara already.
Oh, so when you hit 20, you'll just get another Barbara and get a constellation unlocked.
Sweet.
Anyway, it is a super good game.
I'll have to check it out.
I
think you would like it, Kodra, just from the sheer Breath of the Wild aspect. The big thing that I like it better than Breath of the Wild is Breath of the Wild is a very desolate world, and there are large stretches of the world that feel kind of isolating and alone. This is a game where every bit of the world feels alive. And I get that was part of the artistic vision for Breath of the Wild, but I like how lively the world is here.
Okay.
It feels like running around in a Tales game.
Yes.
And I find that very fun.
Well, and there's lots of side quests that just unlock for reasons. I don't know what does them, but eventually you'll go off on these weird side missions. Like, one of your characters is a lightning mage that's also a librarian. And one of the quests that you go on is to help her reclaim overdue library books.
I mean, makes sense.
Yep. You might have to go on a quest to atone for murdering some birds in front of a small boy.
That small boy.
That was like just a few minutes into the game. But what if they don't come back one day, like my dad did?
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? How did we get here?
Look, there's a lot of that stuff going on in this game. You can let somebody try and eat your companion. Like, there's a character that is a chef, and the very first time she encounters Paimon, which is your little fairy friend, she says, "What a delightful creature. Is it edible?"
Oh, goodness.
It seems like eventually you encounter a mission to basically talk about the backstory of pretty much all the characters that you can play as, and you're getting them slowly. But probably the best thing that the game's got going for it is just from playing the game, you're going to unlock a perfectly reasonable group of characters. You will have your character, which is wind-based. You will have a fire-based character. You will have a frost-based character. And you will have a lightning-based character. And that blend is perfectly reasonable to do pretty much all the content in the game.
So it's not like Dragalia Lost, where you wanted a monotype team and the story did not provide this?
Yeah, that is not at all what this game is about. You probably never want a monotype team unless you're going against a very specific area.
Yeah, the game will give you
nice.
buffs for having multiple of the same element on your team, but you also get a different buff for having all 4 different elements on your team. So it just depends on the specific content you're doing.
Well, and the other thing that I've noticed is, like, even if you're in a quote-unquote water temple, it's not just going to be hydro mobs. It's going to have ice mobs. It's going to have complementary mobs that play nice with water and buff each other. And the mobs will buff each other. So, like, there's rarely an occasion where you will ever really want a single element team. And it would really be kind of hard to get a single element team. I don't think I have 4 of any one element yet.
I definitely do not. I have duplicates of, like, I have 2 lightning, 2 fire, 2 earth, but no more than 2 of the same element of anything.
So one last mechanic that's really cool is a lot of the elements have puzzle solving abilities. So, like, you'll be out in the world and you'll see these chests wrapped in thorns. Well, to get into that chest, you have to hit it with a fire arrow, which burns away the thorns. Or you're encountering a mob and it's got a big shield, but if you hit the shield with a fire arrow, it burns the shield away, and now they're easier to hit. One of the elements that you get just through playing the game is ice. And ice can freeze water. And you can do some stupid things with ice freezing water. There are islands on the edges of the map, and if you're real patient, you can just freeze walk your way out to them. And there's no, like, exhaustion mechanic or anything like that that'll keep you from doing it. And that, like, absolutely seems to be a reasonable way to get to a lot of these places.
Yeah, I think I don't know any other way to get to some of the places that I've been. Because if you tried to swim it, you would probably not have enough stamina.
I tried to glide my way all the way out there, and I did not have enough stamina.
Yeah,
I got really close.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you were a little bit higher level and had a little bit more stamina, but it's perfectly viable to just freeze walk your way there.
Yeah, and the freeze is on a short enough timer that basically you can have 2 platforms at the same time. So you can just slowly walk your way there. And if you happen to fall into the water, the game will let you climb back up onto your ice. Anyway, super good. Highly suggest it.
100% worth the price tag of free to try it.
Yes.
And from what I've heard, the download speeds have improved. I don't know. Like, that was the biggest boss to getting the game at first was True. Like their sub 1 meg per second downloads.
Yeah, I just left it overnight at 0.7 megs per second. I was like, what is happening? Whatever.
I lucked out. I had a 3 to 5 meg per second download for a while, and that's how I got my PC client.
That was approximately 10 times mine.
And I still haven't completed it on my Android tablet. Like, it gets close, but it hasn't finished it. I should try it again. I gave up. I've played it on my phone, though, and that works fine. So another game came out this week, and I think several people have been playing it in here. Came out, I think, Friday? Or did it come out Thursday night?
Late
Pretty
Thursday
sure it
night.
came out on Friday asterisk.
Friday asterisk. Yeah, I played it a little bit Friday morning.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that you and I are you and I the only ones who have played Star Wars Squadrons, Bill?
Really? I thought more people were playing. Like, I know Moore is playing, but like Moore isn't on the podcast. So this may be a lot of heavy lifting on your part, Tam.
I mean, so like the first proper video game I ever played was Rebel Assault, which, let's be clear, is not a good game.
No, it's a rail shooter, but it's a Star Wars rail shooter.
It's an FMV rail shooter.
Yeah.
But like I played a lot of it, and I played the sequel, and so like I grew up on flight sims, and especially Star Wars flight sims, and nobody for like a really long time, like nobody just nobody made those anymore.
Which is really weird because TIE Fighter is possibly the best game ever made in the history of ever.
It's incredibly good. They're incredibly fun games because it's like it's all the fun of flying without most of the boring parts of flight sims. Because I mean, flight sims, while fun, are not like riveting. They're not like a riveting gameplay experience. As much fun as, you know, Twitch plays Microsoft Flight Simulator is. Thanks, Rami. But also like, so the Star Wars conceit is like, okay, cool. You get to do cool dogfighting in awesome Star Wars ships. And like, there have been some really, really good ones released. And like, honestly, it's one of the few things where I think there are more good iterations of Star Wars space combat than there are bad ones.
Yes.
That's probably true.
And they run the whole spectrum from super arcadey type stuff to like super sim type stuff. Where like on the arcadey side, you have stuff like, I mean, the Star Wars arcade.
There's also Old Republic is pretty arcadey.
Yeah, like Old Republic. You've got kind of this like middle tier of stuff where like Rogue Squadron fits in. You know, people will tell me that I know that somebody out there is going to be mad that I put Rogue Squadron as not like the most arcadey thing ever, but like it isn't. It actually, you can roll. It does actually have, you know, multiple axes of movement. You don't necessarily need to use them, but they exist. And like I picked up the last two Star Wars Battlefront games, not because I have any interest in Battlefront, but because it was the only way I could get my like fly around in an A-wing fix. So when they announced Squadrons, which is like it's a Star Wars it's a Star Wars Starfighter game. Pure, it's got a story mode, it's got a bunch of different multiplayer modes. It's got like a co-op roll up and, you know, blow up enemy capital ships with your friends against AI. It uses the Battlefront. Star Wars Battlefront had a really, really great sort of iteration of spaceflight, because if you've got something like Star Fox, like if you remember Star Fox multiplayer, everybody participating in Star Fox multiplayer is a player. And so if you're not good at dogfighting, it's miserable because other players can just fly circles around you.
Mm-hmm.
Battlefront is like, not only is that less fun, but also that's not that's not what big Star Wars battles look like anyway. You're following the ace pilots as they dogfight each other and also blow up lots and lots of little, other fighters. And so even in the multiplayer modes, it's like, yeah, your team is a bunch of Rebel or Imperial aces, and then there's a whole bunch of other just AI-controlled ships flying around, and blowing them out of the sky is great for your objectives. So you can totally make your role blowing up smaller ships, and it's functional. But anyway, it's Battlefront did it, Squadrons does it. I fully expected that Squadrons was just going to be them taking the Starfighter component of Battlefront and making it into a separate game, but they didn't. It's a lot more detailed, and it's real fun. You can play it with a whole bunch of different inputs. I bought a HOTAS.
What's that?
Hands-on throttle and stick.
Oh, nice.
It's a two-piece input device with a complicated joystick and throttle. I'll probably load up like Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous at some point to try it out, and also Microsoft Flight Sim.
I know a lot of people bought them before Elite Dangerous.
Yeah. But it's relatively simple. It is definitely a little bit more. It is more sim than Rogue Squadron, which may or may not be a deal breaker for people. It is about as close as a modern day X-Wing versus TIE fighter that I can imagine. Like, you've got to acquire target locks on things. You can alter the power loadout on your ship towards weapons, engines, or shields. You can adjust your deflector shields. It's got a bunch of like fairly handy default controls, but you can get really detailed in the little tweaks that you're doing while you're flying. It's fast. I haven't tried playing it with anything other than the joystick, but I'm told it controls really well with like basically everything, even like keyboard and mouse, which surprised me.
It did not feel good with a mouse to me, but I'm also not like its target demographic, I guess. Like I do not usually get along well with flight type games.
Yeah.
The most I am usually interested in is a very Star Foxy type experience.
Yeah. And this is maybe like a bridge too far from what I was expecting. Like, but I kind of went into it not knowing if I would be into it, but I wanted to give it a shot anyway. Yeah. And I mean, it is definitely doing a thing that I did not think we were going to get in a Star Wars game ever again, where like, no, this isn't Star Fox. This is not Star Fox flying, where it just auto levels you to the horizon. And it's like mostly a 2D game, or like you're really only dealing with two axes.
Yeah.
This is like you are absolutely dealing with three axes of movement.
So this is going to be if I got decent at Elite Dangerous, I might be okay at this.
If you're decent at Elite Dangerous, you're going to be pretty good at this. Like, Elite Dangerous is also full 3-axis movement.
Does this do the very fun thing where figuring out how to be able to drift backwards is a thing?
No.
Okay.
You are you are in a starfighter. Like, Elite Dangerous has ships with a bunch of like thrusters and stuff in different directions and so on. You
are a shark. You are going forward. You are only ever going forward.
Okay. Yeah, Elite Dangerous has some things where I was like, I probably will like this better than Elite Dangerous. Elite Dangerous feels very weird because frequently you will turn around and then you're going to be like trying to accelerate past going backwards.
Yeah, no, this is not that. This is actually, this is significantly more forgiving flying than Elite Dangerous. I think the most complicated like flying maneuver that you can do is like boost drifting, where you hit your booster and like basically power slide your starfighter and try really hard not to think of the G's that you'd be pulling doing that. Like, because if you actually did that, you would just become a fine paste on the inside of whatever vehicle you're in. It would be terrible. But whatever, this is Star Wars. You can like hit the booster and power slide around an asteroid to blast somebody. And I don't necessarily think that's a good idea, because the places that you're flying are very Star Wars, which means they're crowded. But you can get into some like epic dogfights where you're chasing people through asteroids and through like little holes in asteroids and space debris and stuff.
I greatly appreciate the fact that in truth, your ship isn't much wider than your field of view.
Yes.
because I was constantly afraid I was going to clip things, but like, no, you're really not. Because like realistically, the edge of your ship, even though that's not true, is really the edge of your screen.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a small ship. You're not gonna. It's not like Elite Dangerous. You're not gonna smash into something outside of your field of view because your cockpit is in a weird place.
I mean, theoretically, with a B-wing, that could happen. Can you fly B-wing in this?
They don't have B-wings.
Oh,
it is the one.
DLC.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably be in the DLC, but you've got. It's actually, I actually like the ship selection, despite lack of B-wing. Because it's simultaneously iconic and also easy to understand, because you can play as either the New Republic or the Imperial Remnant, and your choices are your all-rounder starfighter, which is a TIE fighter or an X-wing, but like the new version of TIE fighters that have like shields.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
Yeah.
I've found the TIE fighters way the hell easier to control than the X-wings.
This is true. TIE fighters are a lot more maneuverable than X-wings.
That's supposed to be a point of them.
Yeah.
Do X-wings hit a lot harder?
X-wings hit at least twice as hard and are much more durable. And then you've got the bomber class, which are Y-wings and TIE bombers. You've got interceptor classes, which are TIE interceptors and A-wings. And then you've got the support class, which is the TIE Reaper and a U-wing, because we really wanted to sell some toys from Rogue One. But they're really they're interesting. Like, all of them have slightly different loadouts. They feel very, very different when you're flying them. I think TIEs feel more similar than the Republic ships, but
I mean, that makes sense.
It is interesting seeing the difference, because I think the A-wing is the most maneuverable ship in the game, but the interceptor hits harder. Like, the interceptor has 4 guns rather than 2, and so you can just put out a lot more firepower on an interceptor. But the thing that's really exciting, and I almost want to find some way of playing this game in VR for it, is the interiors of the cockpits of every ship are like exquisitely rendered to the point where one of the gameplay options is to play the game with just the ship's instruments. Like, no additional UI, just the instruments on your ship. And like, it's totally playable. You could just do that. And each one has a different interior, so you're not always looking at the same things. Mm-hmm. And boy, do I appreciate. Prior to playing this game, I always thought that the little ball and giant round canopy design of TIE fighters was iconic but sort of silly. I no longer think that. Having a giant window out the front of your ship is so awesome, because you can look past your rendered control stick and heads up and see and like track your target around this giant open circle thing. So I've been playing a bunch of it. I'm getting used to playing with a joystick and throttle again because it's been a while. I had a very funny match before I remembered to turn off voice chat. Although voice chat is mostly not annoying. Like mostly, I have not run into anybody who's annoying on voice chat. But we did have somebody roll up and start the match with, "Hey guys," or "Hey y'all, sorry if this match is kind of skewed. I fly F-22s for a living." And of course people were like, "Yeah, okay, whatever. Sure you do, buddy." And then he went 22-0-6. And matches are to 30 points.
Welp.
Will.
So we're like, oh, okay. That guy was real good. Which is, I mean, that's the other thing is, if you have one person who's just like dominant in a match, like they can't, other than apparently this guy, you mostly can't be everywhere. So it's not like, well, this one person just completely shut out this match. But when you see somebody who is really good, boy, are they really good.
Now, there's like is there a story mode?
Yes. There's a whole story mode that spans both sides, both Imperial and Republic.
It's real confusing too, because like when you start, I thought I had accidentally screwed up and picked the wrong thing. Because if you start as a rebel fighter pilot, you don't actually start playing the rebels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Because it's a story arc that weaves back and forth between.
Yeah, it's weird because they have you customize both an Imperial character and a Rebel character. And then having done that, it goes through a story arc where you kind of go back and forth between them, which is a little confusing.
I did not fully understand that. I thought I was choosing one of the two, not that I was customizing both.
Yeah.
So I have a stock Imperial person and I have a custom Rebel.
But I mean, I've liked the story so far. It's set, as far as I can tell, it's set like possibly in parallel with The Mandalorian. It's set between episodes 6 and 7, broadly.
The only thing I know about is that Hera shows up somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Hera Syndulla from Rebels is mentioned multiple times. A number of characters show up, but with a number of characters show up, but without it feeling like forced or weird, which I like so far. And like your squad is fun. Like I like them. They're characterful and incredibly diverse, which I also like.
All right, so it's a fairly like decent story then, and not just kind of like tacked on. So
no, I mean that the story I think is the meat of the game. Like the multiplayer modes exist and they're fun, but they're not like where the emphasis is.
Okay.
Got a bunch of neat scripted missions and cool places to fly around. Incredibly, just shockingly bad ideas, like just go fight a Star Destroyer.
Oh, well, now we're talking.
Like,
it's fine. Take out the shield towers; it'll be fine.
It's not fine. FYI. But the thing that I really like about it is when I'm flying around and I'm like fighting a capital ship, I feel like I'm fighting a capital ship. Like I'm like making space for myself. I'm blowing up turrets. Like I am taking out shield generators, targeting systems, hammering, like trying to find hull breaches and hammer on those.
Flying close to the hull.
Flying real close to the hull. Angling my shields straight forward so that horrific inbound barrage is not fatal. Or putting everything into engine so I can just boost right up to the thing and hope that I don't overshoot.
It is a real pretty game.
It is, yeah, it's also very pretty.
In 4K, it's real pretty.
I'm surprised it runs as well as it does.
Yeah, no, like I expected it to chug. But no, it's on my 1080 Ti, it's great.
But yeah, if you like TIE Fighter or those previous games, like this game has got you. It's not quite as intensely hardcore flight sim as X-Wing or TIE Fighter were, but I also feel like that's kind of okay because it's easier to get into it and just play.
Yeah, that's good.
It's not as hardcore as something like Elite Dangerous, but it's not quite as arcadey as like Star Fox. Definitely recommended. It's a good game if you like flying around in things.
So I know another thing that's been going on this week is folks have been playing a heck of a lot of Hades.
Hooray!
So much of it.
So much. This is a crazy game. I was not expecting this.
It's a much deeper game than I had expected. I'm very impressed by that.
I did not play this in early access, so I had no idea what to expect.
I played a lot of it in early access, and I'm very pleased with the way that it turned out in the release version.
Actually, Grace, I'm curious because you also played a bunch of this in early access. Do you feel like they retuned a bunch of stuff?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's... I mean, either I am way better at this game than I thought I was now, or it was significantly easier to get through the early parts of the game.
Yeah. Okay. Because I had that same experience. I was like, oh, there is way more story here than I thought there was.
Yeah, also that.
Like I've completed 2 runs at this point, and like I don't know how much more story there is, but it seems like a lot.
A lot. I think I've completed 6 or 8 runs now, and I'm just starting to see a meta plot.
I mean, it is Supergiant Games. It's super giant games.
I mean, this is more than other Supergiant games, though. Like, this game feels like it presents you with what you think is going to be the end of it, and then that's not the end of it.
I still haven't seen credits.
I'm sure credits must exist somewhere, but I've only finished, I think, 2 runs.
I've certainly seen credits mentioned, but beyond that, I do not know. Yeah, I think my current goal is to try and complete runs with the remaining 4 weapons that I haven't done so yet, and then start increasing heat and earning more blood and diamonds, because I need a lot more of those.
I've just started unlocking the secret weapons. See, well, one of them.
I mean, this game definitely has some grinding to it.
It does, and maybe this is because I played a lot in early access just trying to beat it for the first time and got a lot of progress that way. But the grinding doesn't feel egregious.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel all that grindy to me.
It helps that every run can feel very different because of the random elements.
Mm-hmm.
The Dark Thirst mechanic also encourages your runs to feel different.
Yes.
As does the Fates.
Yeah. Hey, you haven't picked this yet. Maybe you should pick it this time. Hey, you didn't use this weapon. Let's give you bonuses for using it this time. I will say, though, there are definitely some winners and some losers. In particular, I don't think the Spear Special doing bonus damage to armor is that useful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to be able to break through armor real fast, win things with armor around, but honestly, that's the sort of thing that is useless during a boss fight, and therefore, not high on my priorities.
Yeah, it feels like bosses need to have some armor for those to be a little more useful. I was going to say, so are we all playing this game?
At least to some extent, yeah. I've been playing it on the Switch.
I've played it a little bit on the Switch too, but I haven't really had a lot of time to invest in it yet.
I do feel like it takes a while to get through a run. Like, usually good runs are anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. So there is a decent amount of investment in a single run.
I just had like 30 to 40 minutes for me.
It does mean if I'm trying to chain a bunch back to back, that's a lot of commitment.
It does thankfully let you just save out wherever you want, though. So
yeah, it auto saves after every room. So
yeah, that part's really nice. If I need to step out, I can just do that.
Well, and that is especially nice on something like a Switch, because you can play for a while and then set it back down and pick it right back up. And now, remembering what the hell you were doing
Like what
time.
What weapon did I have? How is it? What boons do I have on it?
At least they let you check.
I still highly favor the shield.
I'm getting better with different weapons. I've cleared with the spear and the rail.
I've cleared with the bow and the rail so far.
For me, it's the fists and the bow. I did not remotely expect the fists to be my first win, but
I have cleared with the fists once.
The dark thirst mechanic said you should use fists, and I was like, well, okay, I'll earn some stuff for the next run, and then I got really good boons, and I punched the final boss repeatedly in the back of the skull until he fell over. It worked remarkably well.
The game definitely allows you to earn stuff before you're able to use it, though. It's very interesting looking at my inventory and being like, ooh, what's this for?
I mean, if nothing else, you could trade it for something that is useful to you.
Yes, but I started to do that, and then Tam and Ash told me that I was being wrong and needed to stop doing that. Like, when I traded one Titan's Blood for 200 gems.
Oh, no, don't do that. I was thinking of Ambrosia.
Yeah, but...
You're not going to need Ambrosia for a long time.
Yeah, but you get introduced to Titan's Blood way before you can use it as well.
It's true. Yeah. You get introduced to Titan's Blood way before you actually get the ability to use it. But once you can use it, like, being able to unlock alternate aspects for the weapons is really, really nice.
It changes things a lot.
Yeah, and of course I picked it up and was like, that's not even the thing that I was doing. I unlocked, I just gave myself made my bow more powerful because that was the weapon I was using, and now I'm definitely starved for Titan's Blood as well.
Well, your options are increase the heat and complete more bounties, hope that there's Titan's Blood for sale at the final store and that you have enough cash to buy it, or trade Ambrosia for Titan's Blood, or hope that something else comes up, like as a special trade.
So I started trying to do that thing you were saying, and I'm convinced now that I am not... I don't think I have enough power to reliably survive to the end of the game without spending my obol at Charon.
Yeah, it's a risk. I mean, there's also multiple upgrades to be picked up that increase the amount of cash that you will get over the course of a run and make it a little less painful. Like the first time that I did have enough money to buy the big thing from Charon's store, I actually had enough that I was able to buy some things prior to that and also buy, I think, 3 more items out of his store.
Did you have Side Hustle that run or something?
I did have Side Hustle that run, in fact.
Side Hustle is real strong.
It does add up because, like, trying to earn enough money to buy either a diamond or a blood was one of my main goals that run.
Honestly, one of the other things that I've noticed is that the difference between which boons are worthwhile and which ones are not is pretty huge. Like, once upon a time, I was not interested in Hermes or Dionysus or...
I way undervalued Hermes boons, and I have realized this. I was wrong. I was so wrong.
I don't think there is any god that I dislike seeing, although there are some that are not good for specific builds when I see them.
Yeah.
Because I already have some things that are useful from other gods.
Yeah, there are definitely boons and boon types that just don't work well for specific builds, or particular Daedalus hammers upgrades. Like if you're using the Chiron bow, the Daedalus hammer that turns your attack into an auto fire, don't get that one. It's a waste. Get something else. Because the only thing you're doing with your attack is you are attacking once, and then you are firing your special. Because your special is homing arrows.
See,
the different weapons change dramatically, and I think it's really cool.
The auto attack is the one I want because my bow just has a flat 10% crit chance on it, and so I would much rather be throwing out as many shots as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yep. For that aspect, that makes sense. Yeah. But I was running the Chiron bow, and I didn't even think about it. I saw that one and was like, "Ooh, auto fire, yes." And then quickly realized that, all I was ever doing was doing a single dash attack to get the to mark them and then firing specials at them. So auto fire isn't very helpful. On the other hand, the Daedalus Hammer that adds 4 additional special arrows is incredibly powerful on the Chiron bow because, again, they all home.
Yeah.
Also, don't steal from the shopkeeper.
I don't
Or do.
think I
This is
can.
roguelike 101.
Look,
Unless you are really strong.
I mean, if you want to have enough money to buy the thing from his final shop, like that is effectively either 540 or 600 gold right there.
It's a lot of gold, and you should do it at least once.
It is high reward, and the risk is
high risk.
appropriate for that reward. Also, I'm pretty sure once you've stolen from him once, you unlock the ability for portals to just appear randomly that will let you go down there and fight him.
So I definitely haven't unlocked that ability yet.
Yeah,
I have
not been able to steal from the shop yet.
I have no idea what causes various things to unlock.
Yeah, like I think a lot of it, I don't know anything specific that I did to be able to steal from him.
Yeah, it feels like
I assume it was just random.
It feels like I'm playing Elsinore as far as my actions have some consequences, probably.
But yeah, I mean he's probably comparable in difficulty to the bosses of the third area.
For a really long time, those two are the most common cause of death.
Oh yes, I ground my face against them for quite a while. I am still challenged by them, but I feel like I understand them well enough to usually beat them if I have a decent build.
Yeah, I think I need something faster than the problem I was doing is I was using the bow, and the bow can be a little slow. Depends on how you're using the bow, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Dash shot helps with that. Your attack charges much more quickly out of a dash. But beyond that, yeah.
The other thing is using your special in melee range.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because it is a shotgun. It is a video game shotgun. Let me be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem with them is until you've managed to drop one of them, you basically can't stand still for more than a split second.
I'm curious, does anyone prefer the purple side boons or the orange side boons from the mirror?
Depends.
Yeah, I use a mix of both.
I predominantly use the first ones, the purple ones, but
Yeah,
it depends on what exactly I'm planning to build for that run.
Particularly on the cast, it depends on what weapon I'm using. Like three charges versus regenerating charges.
Ah.
It's like, do I want to, like, I can have more charges, but also I have to go pick them up. And sometimes that's a real pain in the ass.
Also, they tend to stick into enemies until you kill them.
That too. I mean, there's a boon for that.
I mean, there are several boons for that. There's also the sword that instantly dislodges all cast gems when you hit things with your special.
It is so weird. I push most of my builds to not have to care about my cast very much.
But some of the casts are so strong.
Some of the casts are really strong, but it's like an extra button that I need to manage. And I can overwhelm myself if I'm like trying to do too much clever stuff versus just being really fast.
Honestly, when I'm using that sword that I mentioned, I don't press the attack button.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, my first actual clear was with a rail where I did not press the attack button. But I really love all of the different builds that you can do and like how different things are. Like just as it's starting to feel a little stale, I'll unlock something new and it'll be like, oh, that's totally different and changes the way I would play this. So I've unlocked the Secret Spear, and the Secret Spear is a completely different playstyle from any of the other weapons.
I know all of the secret weapons have a different moveset to the original.
They have a different...
Oh, weird.
It's not just a different moveset. It's a whole different set of animations and timing. It's basically a completely new weapon.
I like how... I wish you were more reliably given a hammer early on, because those also really change things up.
As far as I can tell, there is always one somewhere in Tartarus.
Yeah, you should always get one in Tartarus and always get one in Elysium.
I have gotten one in Asphodel before, because I didn't get it in Tartarus.
There have been a few times where it showed up in the shop in Tartarus for 200 oval. And that's annoying.
Yeah.
But I've never seen it not show up.
I mean, that could be because I'm not going to the shops right now. Because if you're trying to save money to get stuff at the end, you don't really need to go to shops.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that shop at the end is the best way to get various things. Like unlocking the what's this called?
Unlocking the Pact of Punishment is going to be much generally faster, probably.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, you should do that first. No, I feel like saving money for the final shop is mostly something that, like, if you get a little ways in and decide, okay, I've got a good build going, I can probably skip shops and be okay, then go for it. And even if you don't manage to save up enough for the big thing, everything that he is selling in that final shop is usually worth it, and often improved versions of things, like double boons and the anvil that swaps one of your daedalus hammers for two. Like, there's not much risk of getting to the final shop and not having something to spend all that money you saved on.
Oh, sure. It's just getting to that shop is the trick.
Yeah.
Well, things have kind of wound down a bit, and we've run over. So, any final thoughts?
I did like somebody who mentioned they couldn't tell if this was going to be the game of the year or the best game of all time, because this game's real good.
It is remarkably good.
Agreed.
Good gameplay, good story, good music, good characters, like, it's everything.
Yeah, Supergiant knocks out of the park again, like they just keep on doing. It's just what they do, apparently.
I'm constantly amazed at how wildly different their games are and how universally good they are. Like, even if it's a thing I don't necessarily like, I could still 100% appreciate what they're doing and enjoy myself.
Yeah, even the one game that was my least favorite of them is still good. It's just a genre I didn't care for.
So, I was going to say, Grace, do you play with mouse and keyboard then?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I prefer mouse and keyboard, honestly. Like, after having played on the Switch a bunch, I feel like it's easier on mouse and keyboard.
Interesting.
I just have so much.
The large amount of auto aim you get on a controller.
I am appreciating that.
I felt this way about Bastion as well, mostly.
I have so many hours of Diablo in my muscle memory that...
I just feel like my reaction times are so much slower with the controller. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.
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 Night.
See you.